James Carvell was talking with me the other day on our platform about speaking out, and he of course, was helping the Clinton family come to power and so forth and so on. I asked him a question that was a little bit personal. I don't know if it was too personal. He did his best to respond. I'm kind of going to ask you the same thing because you're another man who's been around the block. And I was joking later with my producer Ernie that, in talking to Carvel or talking to you, you guys never drop names because you actually know everybody. So there's nothing impressive about your old Rolodex list because everybody in Washington is on it, and probably all the people you were around when money was being raised as well. So, but I wonder if you looking back, aside from your political memoir and your evolution of ideology and how you changed somewhat from right to left or more progressive or whatever, whether you think that the very fact you're a public person has changed your perception of who you are, and do you recognize yourself not in your changed political views or differences, but that the very kind of instrument of becoming well-known and famous and quoted and writing and so forth, your relationship with publishers and agents and New York Times op-ed editors, whatever it may be, are you the same guy internally, or are there ways where you look back, I'm not saying necessarily with regret, but a recognition that the access to power itself and fame itself in a way kind of changes a little bit of who a human is, who we are? Or do is that not part of your looking at your journey in your memoir?
Well, I want to be clear here that writing for The Atlantic is not the same as being Beyonce.
Hey, I think it's very sexy, and you and Beyonce.
When the day comes that I'm jetting around the world and wearing glitter and dancing on stage in front of tens of thousands of people, I at that point I may allow myself to worry.
Okay.
In a personal way, my life has not had a big arc. I was born in a reasonably affluent family to stable parents. I live in a reasonably affluent family with stable children. And my view, one of the things that bugs me in contemporary discourse is the use of the term privileged. So because privilege is thrown as an accusation, people then either accept it and then lament about their guilt, or they repudiate it and say, yes, but I've struggled with mental illness, so despite my seeming advantages. And my view is also life is never perfectly fair. Many advantages are distributed randomly and arbitrarily. And if you happen to have some dealt to you, then that is a privilege. And with privilege comes responsibility. And you shouldn't lament it or accuse yourself, or you shouldn't deny it if you have it. You should accept the responsibility that comes with it. And by the way, I think many of the most important privileges are those that are not very obvious to modern people. So one of the privilege, I have a family. My mother died at age 54 of cancer, and we've had a lot of health issues in my family. I have never spent a night in the hospital. I'm 63. So I arbitrarily, by some mechanism that I had no sway, I got dealt a very robust physical constitution. I thought, now that's if you don't have it, that's a privilege more remarkable than wealth or white skin or anything like that. And I'm not subject to depression. I don't get sad, and I know many depressive people, and they live with crippling disease, and I don't have that, and that is a privilege. So I think with all of those privileges, you have responsibilities to step on, and above all, not to be afraid. So I at one period in my life, I got sacked from a Washington job, and it was upsetting because a lot of my friends, sort of went AWOL. But I have the privilege that, I had other resources and I had other ways of earning a living. And so it actually it was emotionally upsetting, and there was a feeling of betrayal and disappointment and loneliness, but I didn't have to worry about how is the mortgage going to be covered. So if you're that person, then you have an obligation not to be intimidated, because what are they going to do to you? And one of the things I'm often struck by in Washington is people will often say to people who stand up for right things, you're very courageous. Say, well, this isn't Russia. This isn't China. No one's going to throw you in prison. All you're facing is some condemnation from your peer group. If you can't stand up to that, how do you look to truly brave people, the people who face torture or arbitrary arrest or exile? How do you look them in the face if you're scared to speak up because the other people in the Republican caucus might be mad at you?